a lot of the team has been working on other things that unfortunately aren't ready yet for Pack 19, and so we can't we won't get to showcase them in Pack 19. But that doesn't stop us from talking about them. What we did actually is take a hard look at where we are right now with the game, especially in terms of the defense mode. I mean, we're never really happy or satisfied when we say, you know, we had to nerf this kind of combo, we had to nerf that kind of combo, and it feels kind of bittersweet. We took a good hard look at the core game, and we decided to make some pretty fundamental changes to that.
Okay, so that's why we don't have that much stuff coming with this pack, with these updates. It's like we have like huge stuff coming in that we're gonna talk about right now, but it takes a lot of effort to make it happen, so we can't make everything happen at once. So for now it's only a few things that are coming, and now we're presenting you where we want to go with it.
Yeah, so the first aspect of that change is the what we're calling internally the free creation mode. And what we did was we took a step back from the game, and we thought about, you know, what's the player fantasy when you start playing the game. What are you dreaming of? You know, ultimately, if you could do anything, what would it be? And we came to the realization that when you try creating a setup that's creative today, you kind of get punished for it. You know, the game says you have to create zones of 20 defense points. When you play on live, you see the same like copy-pasted combinations from one castle to the next, or even from one room to the next, because these are the predominant combinations. We also see very few combinations between traps, and even fewer combinations between creatures and traps. So with the approach of, you know, how do we lift all of these creations, we went back to the roots and said, okay, well, let's say there's no restrictions at all. And what we're exploring right now on the internal prototype is we're looking at letting defenders place their defenses wherever they want, in any configuration they want, with any amount of defense points that they want. However, with one big but, and that's the defender has to be able to validate his own castle in a test attack before it can be published and pushed onto live. So that means, you know, you can create a bunch of interactions with. That also means that we're lifting some of the exclusion radius as we have between traps. So you're able to stack traps as close as you can together, put creatures as close as you can, but you have to be able to get through it on your own. You have to be able to beat your own castle.
Yep.
And we know that this can cause potentially, you know, some players say, oh boy, I don't want to, you know, have to redo my castle, validate my castle over and over again. And while some players, the min-maxers, I think, are going to want to validate it themselves, we're also looking at other ways to facilitate that validation approach by having an AI or a bot type of entity that's able to simulate an attack in your castle, and you can watch the result of that attack, and it'll actually publish your castle if it's a successful attempt.
But obviously the bot is never going to be as good as a good attacker, so basically a really good attacker can be a really tough defense, and it will be really hard to beat for other players.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it makes a nice loop from validating your castle and you know, finding equipment in the attack mode that can then be used to equip your hero and be able to validate your castle using that new hero, and kind of getting a little edge there. So I think that opens up a lot of different possibilities. I mean, the idea is really to push a new strategic aspect, and we see it today on live when, you know, a lot of the really clever defenders, when, you know, they first discovered how to trick the attacker into doing double pulls and triple pulls and pulling stuff through walls. And these were actually really clever ways that the players were telling us, you know, we're trying to work around the current rules, and we're going to find ways to do what we want to do. And instead of us, you know, punishing the player for that, we want to totally embrace that and let players say, okay, well, show us what you can do, and as long as you can validate your castle, then it's fair game.
By the way, all the two screenshots we're showing at the moment, it's actually a castle that has been prototyped and that has been completed. So that's actually completable. You can finish that castle, even when you see all those traps and stuff. So,
yeah, actually the two screenshots we're seeing are from the internal prototype, so it's definitely a work in progress. The team has been working really hard to answer some of those questions that we've been asking ourselves to get a workable, playable prototype that we want to be able to share as soon as possible. And so those screenshots that you see there are a couple of the designers that created these, and we were able to actually validate the castles and publish them. So it is doable. So yeah, it's still a lot of questions to answer, but we definitely feel like we're moving in the right direction with this. We're very anxious to share it with everyone.
Yeah, so apparently everybody on the chat kind of likes that, so that's definitely a good move, I'd say.
That's good. It's good to hear.
So another big thing what you're doing at the moment, well, I'll let you go on with that.
Yeah. So the next aspect, the next acts that we're looking at, and always with the idea of what is the player fantasy and how do we give them the full full possibility to do whatever the defender or the attacker wants to do. And so we took a look at what we call looting, pillaging, or visceral looting, and how can we make that a more visceral experience for the player, as well as make it a more defensive or more strategic aspect for the defender. And so one of the ideas that we're also prototyping right now is to have something that we call lootable mines. And I know at first it can sound like, oh no, the defenders are going to get looted even more. But I think there's something really interesting here, because what the lootable mines offers is actually it opens up strategies on where do I place my mines as a defender, and how do I defend them, and how do I distribute my defenses amongst my mines and my treasure room. And for the attacker, what I find particularly interesting is it also brings an aspect of exploration, which we didn't really have at all right now on live. So you're going to want to look at the entire castle, try and find all the mines so that you can extract as much of that of the resources as you can from the defender. And of course, we're going to find ways so that it feels fair for the defender and he's not losing everything he has. And this does mean, however, when we're talking about lootable mines and the free creation, we have been re-exploring different victory conditions. If we take a look at today on the live, it's essentially a race against the clock to reach the treasure room. Yeah. And this is why we're seeing a lot of predominant tactics with the what we call the delay tactics, like the defendotrons or like just glue mines all over the place, which are, I think they're not fun for the attacker and they're not especially fun for the defender to place. I don't think anyone feels especially clever of timing someone out. But what we want to do, however, is take a look at these victory conditions and say, well, the timer kind of becomes a bragging element amongst the different attackers, and it's think of it as a high score. As an attacker, I was able to finish the castle in, let's say, 5 minutes and 30 seconds. And this is the score that could be that has to be beaten by all the other attackers. So I'm kind of staking my claim on that castle and saying I was the fastest one. And anyone who can come to that castle and beat my time is not necessarily going to steal anything from the defender for beating the time, but he'll go and get an extra reward that'll open up to even more loot, but not at the cost of defender. It's just something that would be generated. So that's one of the ideas that we're exploring, and we think would alleviate some of the back and forth that we see with the timer on that's going into the different packs these days.
All right. So yeah, to come back to that, like mines to be placed in the castle to make exploration a bit more viable, and to have more visceral feel to the loot. And timer being more like a bragging right than a victory condition as it is right now.
Yeah.
All right.
And we're working hard on these. We're trying to find ways to get the community involved. We know this is just a kind of a teaser because you can't play it yet, so we're just talking about it. But we definitely want your initial feedback on the forums about this. And then, as soon as we can, we're going to try and open it up and get some people on this to give us some concrete feedback.
About that, yeah, we're going to have a test server, right? So
that's right.
We should have a test server. I don't exactly know when, but soon. And we'll invite you all, well, or we'll see how we do that, but we definitely want to invite the community to go on the server and test all this new stuff, because we don't want to have big problems or predominant tactics, maybe be able to react to that before that's actually released. So that's something else that we're going to bring.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah.